What's up everybody? Welcome back to 10K. Taylor here, and today we're going to be exploring the world of, premium professional audio. If you're looking to elevate your game and not break the bank, we're going to be taking a look at the Rode PodMic XLR microphone. So stick around as we explore some features, performance, and just an overall review of the microphone. So the Rode PodMic XLR stands tall as a dynamic, broadcast microphone for podcasters, streamers, or whatever else you'd like to use it for. Coupled with that is its robust build. It's all metal. So as we're on that point, looking at some key features of the microphone, one is its sturdy construction. My initial impressions of this microphone is that the build quality is excellent. Clearly been engineered to endure some abuse on the go or just banging around, and it's just a nice sturdy metal. Another key feature is the integrated pop filter, much like you've probably heard on my little Comica lav mic. Is the internal pop filter along with a giant one that you can also buy. It really helps with the P's, the plosives, those kind of things. And then one key feature that Rode puts out there is that it's compatible with their boom arm as well as their shock mount. But as you can see, I have neither. I just have it on a cheap Amazon stand. However, I have a big sturdy desk. There is not really any shaking or anything like that. So I don't really run into that issue. Even I believe my desk is 96 inches long and it is just straight solid wood. So I don't really run into that issue much, but it could be an area of concern if that's a problem for you. Now, jumping over to the performance before we actually jump to using the microphone itself. One thing that I've noticed with the audio quality is the clarity and the warmth to the audio. So a lot of times, with the exception of what I've listened to for my own voice, where it does sound a little bit more trebly, the Rode PodMic, at least the XLR version, reproduces a nice, lush, warm speaking tone that you would expect from a broadcast dynamic microphone, and it does a really good job. Now, I wanna note, when it comes to performance, I don't have a fancy new audio interface or anything. My interface is probably 7-8 years old at this point. It's the Alias Multimix 4 USB. So I run it into there, and all of my settings are still analog. So I do tweak the treble, the mids, the highs. And then on my computer, when I'm using my PodMic, I do have that good old NVIDIA Broadcast Magic that really helps with background noise and the such, but I don't do any further processing. Except for in OBS, I do a compressor just so the highs and the lows, everything's kind of leveled out. Another wonderful feature, even without NVIDIA Broadcast, is the background isolation. It does a great job at rejecting background noise, and it really just does a good job of, weeding out all that noise so your audience, or however you're using this mic, gets a clear image or tone from your voice. So one thing that Rode also touts is its versatility. They also recommend that you can use this, or I guess it's not recommend, but they also suggest that you can use this for instruments as well. Now, yes, I have guitars. Those are all wired in. I have not used it personally for that, and I'm not going to. So if you want to try it out for that, take a shot at it. Now we can jump into the actual technical specifications of this microphone. As previously already stated numerous times, this is a dynamic broadcast microphone, and the polar pattern of the mic is a cardioid, which essentially puts you as you need to talk directly into it, and it really minimizes background noise. So for instance, once we get into the performance, doing this, you're not gonna hear my voice at all. So you really need to aim it at your mouth, but it doesn't have to be super, particular. The one thing about these dynamic microphones, just like you've probably seen with the Sures and everything like that, depending on your setup, you might need a cloud lifter. I use the Clark Technic dynamic preamp booster that uses your 48-volt phantom power and gives it some boost, but I know some audio interfaces now actually will just use this without any problem. For instance, my Zoom, it's a small podcast little mixer, portable one. I don't have to use a cloud lifter with it, but when I'm using my mixer here, you really do. Otherwise, you got to crank that gain up. And of course, cranking the gain up on there, you're just increasing the sensitivity of the microphone. It kind of is working backwards. And for those of you who care, the frequency range is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. I believe I'm saying that right. And the output impedance is 320 ohms. I don't know when you'd have to run into that. I'm not an audio engineer or anything by those means, but if that's important to you, then so be it. Now, the weight of this unit is about 2 pounds. I think it's 2 pounds, 7 ounces, which translates into somewhere along the ballpark of 930 grams or something like that, 937 grams. So it's not super heavy. It just depends on how you set it up. I've used it both in this boom mic form, and I have personally used it for podcasting, and I use it on a little tabletop boom arm as well. So some tips for performance or best performance. One thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that the microphone is approximately 6 to 8 inches away from your mouth at all times. That's going to give you the best vocal pickup and just the best tone from your voice. But of course, depending on your setup, just your angle, depending on you, and you're just going to be a little bit of trial and error. But just give it a shot and you should be able to figure it out. Now, with your gains and levels, if you are using a cloud lifter or you're not using a cloud lifter or something like that because you don't have one yet, keep an eye on your gain levels and just make sure you're not peaking, make sure you're not getting that distortion or anything like that after the fact. Because again, using a dynamic microphone, you do have to play around with that a little bit, and it depends really on your setup. And of course, with anything, make sure your environment is sterile in a sense. It doesn't have to be completely silent, but you do want to at least minimize as much background noise. Also depends on like what your keyboard's like. Is it super clicky? Is it not clicky? For instance, using my lav mic, you can pick that up a little bit. So it's going to really be dependent on your situation. And then of course, when you're using this, a little bit of post EQ never hurts. While it gives you a very impressive sound quality, giving it a little bit of EQ settings and compression to get those highs, get those lows, level everything out, is definitely going to add that little like icing on the cake for you. Ultimately, the Rode PodMic is a excellent, outstanding microphone, coming in at $100, I guess, if you can find it. And again, for the XLR version, it's really hard to beat this guy. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or you're a newbie like myself, this microphone is really aimed to just, kind of do it all and not break the bank. Of course, the golden standard is the Shure SM7B. From, Joe Rogan to the Unsubscribed podcast, we see everybody with that bad boy. However, to buy it brand new, $400 is really, really hard to justify if you don't, have a readily steady income from, content creation. If you got the money, great. It's a fantastic microphone. Remember though, depending on your setup, it also needs a cloud lifter. So you're gonna run into that same issue as well, but that really is the gold standard. But for $100 or less, depending on where you get this guy at, it is really, really hard to beat. Okay, so now we're going to jump into a little bit of comparison. So I'm not gonna use the built-in microphone on my camera because it's just not worth it. So I'm just gonna directly compare it to my lavalier mic, which you've heard in this video, you can hear in other videos as well. And I'm gonna compare it directly to the Rode. So I pulled up some Harvard sentence lists that they use for testing their microphones, and I'm going to read it from here, and read it from here, read it from here, read it from here, and we're gonna go from there. Sweet. The small pup gnawed a hole in the sock.
The small pup gnawed a hole in the sock.
The fish twisted and turned on the bent hook.
The fish twisted and turned on the bent hook.
Press the pants and sew a button on the vest.
Press the pants and sew a button on the vest.
So now I've got a little bit of both. So obviously you can hear me, and I'm gonna switch back and forth now at this point just between the two.
And you can be able to hear the difference between the two. Now, of course, both of these serve drastically different
purposes. Obviously the lav mic is used for, on the go interview styles. It comes with a second one, or just a really simplified. I used to use a lav mic that was wired, and I used to plug it into the microphone thing on the side of my webcam, and I had like a 25-foot cable.
This simplified that tenfold, just like the DJI versions, the Rode Wireless Presenter, I believe it's called, but the Rode wireless mics as well. And then going to the pod mic, obviously serves its different purpose. You can, get an audio interface and run it in that way into your
webcam, but really this is gonna be more for your stationary streamers, podcasters, anything like that. That's really the purpose of this microphone. And like I said, it does a really, really good job. I do want to get my hands on the Zoom, I don't remember the model number, but there is a $50 alternative that you can see here. And I do want to get my hands on those. A couple of my buddies have one. They also used it for the same podcast. And we'll compare and contrast what a $50 microphone does to a $100 microphone. And if anyone wants to, send me a Shure SM7B, and we can go ahead and try that as well. I appreciate you guys, as always, watching the video. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to have a review of my Comica lavalier mic, as well as just some other things that I have that I think, I've been getting over the years, and I think they're really beneficial. So, if you like the content, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to stay up to date with everything else that's coming out, and enable notifications, because I'm trying to at least put out one video every single week. If I can, I'll put out 2 videos every single week. So until next time, guys, see you later.